Okay, hello everyone again. Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello. Can you listen to me? So we're going to start. Hello,
Ali,
Carlos.
yes, teacher.
Okay, hello, Vanessa. Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, Caesar.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So as you can see here on the slide, so we are starting a new module. Yeah, this is one of the last module. This is module 9. Remember that this specialization has just 10 modules. So we're just getting to the end of this specialization program. Yeah, and this in this opportunity, the module is focused on two aspects. Yeah. Remember that we started talking about all the linguistic aspects of a language. No, remember we started with phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax. No, this is the four major branches of linguistics because there are more, but these are the major ones. Then we pass to how to teach different skills. No, the main four skills that we have, such as reading, listening, speaking, and writing. No, so here we cover the 8 modules. So in this module 9, we are trying to cover these two important aspects when we teach or when we learn a language. There is the grammar and also the vocabulary. So in these first two sessions of this module, we're going to talk about grammar, yeah, how we are going to teach grammar. This session and the next session is related to grammar. Then the third and the fourth session is going to be about the vocabulary aspect. All right. So here in this module, we are going to talk about 2 points, 2 topics, grammar and vocabulary. And so, as I told you, today we're going to start talking about grammar. No? So in this session, we are going to analyze the aspects of grammar. Why is it important to teach grammar? No, maybe you can see some teachers says no that grammar sometimes is not so necessary. No, so then you're gonna give me your opinions, right? For example, the first activity that we're gonna do today is that you're going to give me your opinions using this digital tool that is Padlet. No, but I'm talking to you. What is the composition of this module? Now remember, first, we're going to talk about grammar. The first two sessions of this module is about grammar, and the second two, the third and the fourth, is related to vocabulary, all right? And then the final module, yeah, this is the last one, the final module is gonna be related to ICT tools, no? This is very famous, and now we are going to use these tools, digital tools or technological tools a lot, no? Because of this new way of teaching. No? Did you know that we have now a virtual teaching? So we have to get adapted, no? We have to get used to using these kind of tools, all right? So this is in a summary what we're going to do in these two last modules, all right? So let's start here with this, as I told you before, a few minutes ago. So let's start with this aspect of grammar. And I want you to tell me, what is grammar for you and why should we teach grammar? So I'm going to give you a link, yeah, in order to enter to Padlet. Yeah, you have to enter to Padlet. I'm going to give you the link. I'm going to put it in the chat. Yeah, yes, everybody, can you watch it?
Yes.
All right, okay. So here you have to answer 2 questions. I'm going to share the Padlet. I'm going to change my screen. Yeah, can you watch it?
Yes, teacher.
All right. So you have to answer these 2 questions. This is according to your point of view. Yeah. It's not necessary to look up for information. Maybe you don't know exactly what is it, or maybe you consider if it is important to teach grammar or not. So here you have to tell me these 2 questions. What is grammar for you, and should be teaching, okay, this teaching, why should be teaching grammar? And so these two questions, you can answer here on the Padlet. You know how to use it, yes? Here on the right side at the bottom, you have an icon with the symbol plus. So you click on here and you can write answering these two questions. Now you have to answer these two questions, all right? Yeah, everybody? What is grammar for you and why should we teaching grammar?
Grammar is the ruler for to write or for to speak
Yeah,
language.
that's it. Yes. Martha, I couldn't hear you so well. It's very soft, your microphone. Maybe you can... Yeah, everybody please enter to the link. Yeah, please enter to the link and write. What is grammar for you? And why should we teaching grammar? Yeah, there is one person. Don't forget to write your names. Yeah, here you have the option to write your name at the beginning, or maybe you can do it at the end. Yeah? So here we have one.
Teacher, sorry. What
Yeah,
is the grammar?
yeah, tell me, what is grammar
Maybe
for you?
maybe the is the ruler the language
Yeah, the rules. Yeah, the
the
rules
rule
of a
of
language.
the mhm.
Oh, okay, that's good, Caesar. That's good.
Thank you.
So here one person says grammar is the structure of a language in order we can domain it in its different skills. Yeah, all right, okay. Anybody else, please? Can you enter to the link? Yes, or you cannot do it?
I can't do.
Oh,
I,
Tanya, that's good, Tanya. Tanya says that grammar is the structure of a language in order we can domain in its different skills. Very good. Another person says that it's parts of linguistics that studies the structure of words. Yeah, not just words, no? Sentences too, no? Phrases. All right. Anybody else? No more? Try to enter to the link. Nobody else? Okay, that's good, Vanessa. Vanessa says that it's parts of linguistics that studies the structure of sentences. All right, that's good. Maybe the connection is not so good. Do you have any problems in order to enter to this link? Or maybe the connection is not so good. Another person says teaching grammar is a method and approach for teaching, yeah, is embedded and integrated into other aspects such as creative writing. Okay, yes, all right, it's related to writing, yeah, because when we write, we need to apply different structures, different patterns. Another person says it is a system. Yes, it's a system of language. Doris, okay, Doris, very good. So you cannot enter, yeah, you can write it on the chat too. Oh, yeah, Doris, don't worry. Okay, that's good. You're answering on the chat. I'm gonna read your message, and everyone can read it. Grammar is the system of a language. People sometimes describe grammar as the rules of a language, but in fact, no language has rules. Yeah, okay. So here is the system and structure of a language or of languages in general, usually taken as consisting of syntax and morphology. Aha, very good, very good. The combination of two branches of linguistics, syntax and morphology. But sometimes, let me tell you, that we are going to add phonology too. Yeah? The most important is syntax and morphology, but sometimes we're going to talk about, for example, some morphophonological rules, no? That we are going to combine this in order to talk about the grammar aspects of a language. Caesar, system and structure of a language or of languages in general. All right. Oh yeah, if you cannot enter to the paddle, you can write it on the chat. Yeah, maybe it's the connection, or maybe you need to install other software, or you have to update it. Yeah, there are maybe some technical problems. So you can do it on the chat, all right? Magali?
Yeah.
Hey Magali,
Hi,
can you
teacher.
tell us? Hello, hello, hello. Can you tell us what
Hi,
is
good
grammar for
afternoon.
you? And why should we teaching grammar? Is it important to teach grammar?
Yeah, for me, yes, it's very important to teach grammar, and because you will know the rules. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, yes, yes, yes. You will know the rules, yeah, the patterns, the structures. Okay, that's good, that's good. Yeah, anybody else? No more, no more?
Grammar is very important for language, teacher,
Yeah, okay,
for the
Caesar.
structure.
Yeah, to know the structures, no? To know the structures. Aha, Doris says, grammar is positive. We can use for find our way. All right, that's good, Doris. Finding our way. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, don't worry if you couldn't enter to this paddle. Yeah, maybe as I told you, maybe it's the connection. Maybe you need to update something, no, related to the software. No, but don't worry about it. This is just to generate the ideas, not to talk about this topic that we are going to do today. So I'm going back to the slides. I'm going to change my screen. Yeah, as you can see here is this topic is related to grammar, so that's why the two questions that I made to you. So let's start with the first question, no? What is grammar? So most of you told me that it's related to structures, patterns, related to a system. Some of you tell me that there are rules that we have in a language, no? And it's very important to know these rules, no? So here we are going to analyze some definitions related to grammar. And grammar, as you told me, is considered a system of a language. No? Here you have the different structures and patterns that you're going to use in a language. Aha, William, very good. William says syntax plus morphology. Yeah. So people sometimes describe grammar as the rules of a language, but in fact, no language has rules. So specifically, we have some structures, no, that you must follow, patterns that we must follow, but we call them also rules of the language. No? If we use the word rules, we suggest that somebody created the rules first and then spoke the language, like a new game. So notice, this is a very important point when we consider grammar as rules, no? Because most people says that grammar rules, no? We have the first idea in our mind, grammar rules, no? So what here says, no, suggesting that when we use the word rules, it means that somebody created that rules. And then they start to speak in this language, no, like a game. But the languages did not start like that. Languages started by people making sounds, which evolved into words, phrases, and sentences. So notice, they are not specifically rules. No? If we apply the literal meaning, no? Because we could say that grammar is a composition of different rules or structures, no? But if we go to the literal meaning rules, so we could say that these rules were created before doing something, right? So here make a comparison with a game, no? If you create a game, you create the rules, and then people must follow this rule in order to play the game. So there was a beginning. But notice languages. How did languages start? So human beings start talking, start speaking, producing sounds. These sounds then evolve into words, phrases, and sentences. So no commonly spoken language is fixed. All languages change over time. What we call grammar is simply a reflection of a language at a particular time. So this is very important to consider, no? When we analyze the structures, the patterns of a language, we analyze the structure or patterns of that period, no? Of that moment. For example, let me tell you, if we talk about English, no, this is the language that we are learning, acquiring, and teaching. So English has three important periods or stages: the Old English, the Middle English, and the modern or contemporaneous English. And if we start comparing these three stages, we could find that there are a lot of differences in vocabulary, in the grammar, in the pronunciation. So we have different differences between or among these three stages. That's why here it says when we talk about grammar, we are just making just a reflection of a language at a particular time, because through the time the language is changing, all right? We are going to change some rules of the language. And also we change this, no, in this part we could say rules. We change these structure, these patterns, also depending on the region. No? For example, if we compare American English and British English, there are some differences in the structures, not all completely, but there's just a few differences in the structure, and also in the vocabulary, and also in the pronunciation. So notice, we are analyzing, we are reflecting, no, about the language, but a particular time, and I can add also according to the region, no, that you speak this language. So notice here, what is grammar referring that we call this as rules, no? Literally, these are not specific rules, no? This is just a reflection of the language, analysis of the language at a particular time. Grammar, so here we have the first definition. It was said by David Crystal, no, in this journal. This was a journal in 2004. Yeah? According to David Crystal, grammar is the structural foundation of our ability to express ourselves. The more we are aware of how it works, the more we can monitor the meaning and effectiveness of the way we and others use language. So notice, according to David Crystal, yeah, this is a famous linguist, and also he's a famous writer. Yeah? So he published a lot of books, yeah, specifically for grammar, how to teach the different skills too, no? The methodology books, no? They have it out. So according to this person, grammar is the structural foundation, the base, no? The structural base, foundation of our ability to express ourselves. When we talk about express, it doesn't mean just writing, no? We also says by the speaking, no? So here says, if you are aware, if you are conscious, no, aware is similar to say conscious. If you are conscious of how the language works, so you can have a better monitor, and you can monitor here is to check, no? so you can check better the meaning and effectiveness of the way we and others use the language. So this is grammar according to David Crystal, no? Is the structural foundation, and it helps us in our ability to express ourselves. Another one is said by William Somerset Maugham, the summing up. This is an old definition, 1938. It is necessary to know grammar, and it's better to write grammatically than not. But it is well to remember that grammar is common speech formulated. Usage is the only test. So according to this person, to know grammar, notice, to know grammar is to remember, that this aspect of the language is common speech formulated. Common speech formulated. How to use it is the only test. It's the only part that you're going to be evaluated. How to use the language. How you use the language when you express yourself. No? So here we have a similar definition with the David Crystal, no? Because David Crystal says that it's a way to express ourselves with that effectiveness. No? How effective do we express ourselves? So here you have these two definitions of grammar. So now I'm going to ask you some questions related to grammar. No? So you have to tell me your ideas. No? What do you think? Would you agree or disagree with the following statement? For example, notice here this statement, and you have to tell me you agree or disagree with that. Yeah? It's not important for students to use correct grammar when they are talking, as long as they are getting their message across. So according to this statement, it's not important to use grammar, correct grammar, when we speak. The most important is to transmit, to communicate, to transmit your message. What is your opinion? What do you think about this statement? Tell me, please. You can use the chat.
Professor?
Yeah, okay. Tell me, Tanya.
I think, well, in case our students are studying just to learn the language, it's that this statement is correct. I mean, it's not very important to use the grammar. However, if the student is studying for teaching English in the future, I think they must use the correct grammar.
Aha. So you have two different positions. If you're studying English as a student, just as a student, no? Yes, this is the idea?
If you're studying English, I mean, if you want to travel, if you want to go around just visiting different countries or cultures, it's not necessary. If you want to be an English teacher in the future, yes, you have to follow all the grammar structures you need for this.
All right, yeah, okay, I got it. All right, so you just learn or acquire the language to use it commonly in everyday speech. This is your idea. And the other side is when you learn or acquire the language to teach it. Okay, so in the first context, for you, it's not necessary to use a correct grammar. In the second one, yes, obviously. Okay, yeah, all right, that's good, Tanya. So you have two different contexts. It depends on the context if you use grammar or not. Okay, any other idea? Aha, Doris says that she agrees. So you think that it's not important for students to use correct grammar when they are talking. And remember, this is the context, when they are talking. The most important is to transmit communication. Doris agree with that. Anybody else? Anybody else? No more, no more? Don't be afraid, please tell me your ideas. What do you think about this?
I think grammar is very important, teacher, because it's very difficult to talk in English without knowing grammar.
Uh-huh. Yeah, according to your partner. So it means that you cannot talk if you don't know the grammatical structures of a language. Yeah? This is what you mean?
Yes, teacher.
All right, okay. So here you have another opinion. So for your partner, grammar is so important to speak. Uh-huh. Anybody else? Anybody else? Indira, the most important is the capacity to communicate a message, not the grammar. All right, okay. Veronica says the same. No, we have to focus in speaking. Okay, that's it. That's good. So here you have different positions. Well, one of you says that it's so important to talk, to speak if you don't know grammar, so it's a kind of difficult to speak. But others says no, it's not so important because the most important is to communicate, no? To communicate. So here, notice that we were talking about this aspect in the previous sessions. Can you remember when we talked about communicative devices? Can you remember about this topic? When we talk about the communicative devices, when we talk about the speaking, no? Because here we are making a relationship between grammar and speaking. And we talk about something important here. And I want you to notice how effective you use the language. As your partner says, Tanya, I think, yeah, Tanya says that you have different context. No, you have different contexts. The way you acquire, learn, or use the language depends on how you're going to use the grammar. No, but don't get confused here. When we talk about grammar, remember, when we talk about grammar, as you can see before, they are not exactly rules, no? Because sometimes say, yeah, rules are boring. No, it's not necessary to use rules to speak. But remember, grammar are not rules. Grammar are the foundations in order to express ourselves. Maybe we have this opinion about grammar because we make a relationship. No, grammar, a lot of rules, structures. No, it's not so important. The most important is to communicate. No, rules. It's too boring, too complicated for our students. No, but notice grammar are not only rules. As we have seen on the definitions before, grammar is the foundation, the structural foundation. The problem is how you acquire, or how you learn, or how you teach it. And then we are going to talk about it, right? If you acquire or you learn language using or giving more importance to the structures or to these foundations, maybe it's a kind of difficult or boring, no? But you don't have to omit grammar when you speak, no? You don't have to omit it. It's very important. Yeah, Doris, for example, put an example here. If we are, for example, in USA for the first time, it's not important to use correct grammar to communicate. Yeah, all right, maybe. But if you notice, if the person who travels to the USA doesn't know anything about the language, it would be so complicated to communicate. No? Maybe you cannot speak or you cannot understand. At the beginning, it's gonna be so hard. No, it's gonna be so hard. Maybe through time, no, this person could acquire the language naturally because of the context. But at the beginning, if the person doesn't know anything about the language, this person is not gonna to communicate with other person, with other people, right? So remember, grammar is the use. Remember how you express yourselves. Don't forget about it. Sometimes, as I told you, we have seen grammar as rules, no fixed rules. Yeah, you have to learn these rules, the present, past, or to join these two, or don't forget to do this part or add this later. No, so we have some structures that could be so complicated, no, kind of complicated. But remember, now, according to this context, grammar is the foundation. So it means it's an important part when we acquire or learn a language. For me, for example, the difference is, as I told you before, how you acquire or learn this foundation. If you learn in an analytical way, so you are going to, it's going to be, a little complicated. No? But if you acquire learning naturally, no, because you can learn these structures naturally, so you can do it easily and it's not going to be so stressful, right? So for example, then we're going to analyze these two aspects of grammar, no? That we are going to analyze some different methods, how we are going to teach them. No? So here notice, it's important, remember, it's important to know grammar, but don't forget this, but you don't have to take it as simply rules. This is the most important. You don't have to take grammar as simple rules. No, these are how we express ourselves, the foundations of how we express ourselves. We are going to apply some structures, yes. For example, if I want to make a sentence in English, when I want to speak, remember, when I want to speak, sometimes we omit, no? For example, we talked about this in speaking, the difference between the spoken language and the written language. The written language is more analytical, more structural, no? But the spoken language is more colloquial, no? So you use a lot of devices. That's what I'm talking to you related to the communicative devices, no? We have to give our students some devices in order to communicate. But I told you, you don't have to exaggerate. Yeah, the most important purpose is to communicate. Yeah, so they're going to speak as they want. No, right? So we don't have to go to the ages, no? So you have to be in the middle, no? Yeah, grammar, but not so much, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to use the grammar, no? No effectiveness, no correctness. So the important part of a language is to use the language well. No? That's why we talk about competences. So you need to do it well, all right? And I agree with your partner, Tanya. When we have these two different contexts that you are learning, acquiring the language, as a speaker, not as a teacher, so I could say that grammar is important, but not so much. But if you are a teacher, you're going to teach. So grammar is going to be so important, no? Because you need to know very well these structures, no? And how you can use it well in each case, all right? Then we're going to talk about, for example, there are two kinds of grammars, no? The prescriptive grammar and the descriptive grammar. Then we're going to talk about it. All right, so that's it. That's good. So you have here these opinions. Yeah? Now we are going to continue with this. Accuracy is important because, remember, when we talk about grammar, we're talking about accuracy, how effective, how well you use the language. From the point of view of the hearer or reader, inaccuracy, even it doesn't affect the meaning. No? This is a kind of agreement with your opinions, no? Because you said it's not important the correct grammar, the most important is to communicate. So this is from the hearer, from the reader. Notice, inaccuracy, even it doesn't affect the meaning, so it's not so important. But from the point of view of the teacher, professionalism means teaching the language as best we can. This is what Tanya was trying to say, no? We have two different ways, no? Two different contexts. But again, it doesn't mean that grammar is not important. No. Grammar is important, but not so important in order to communicate, because you could use other devices to do it. But on the other side, according to the point of view of a teacher, if you want to be a good professional, so you must teach the language as best you can with the correct structures, with the correct patterns, all right? So we have these two different contests, and be careful with that, no? So if you say, yeah, grammar is not important, you just need to communicate, yeah, you have to take this very carefully. You could say, yeah, grammar is important, but not so much. Because sometimes when we think a lot, no, this is what we're talking the last sessions, no? What happened? We lose fluency, all right? We lose fluency in speaking and we lose fluency in writing, no? Remember that fluency is not just for speaking. We also talk about fluency when we write, no? When we organize our ideas, no? In a smooth way, no? So notice we always think about the structure, the patterns, so our fluency is gonna be affected. This is one of the part, not our monitor. Notice in one of the concepts we talked about monitor. So our monitor, for example, this is a theory of Krashen. No? Krashen was a linguist, and he says in order to acquire a second language, he proposes some theories. One of them is the monitor hypothesis. If you're monitoring, means that you're checking if you're using every time the correct structure, it's gonna affect your fluency, your acquisition. Because you are always thinking, no, I forgot to write the S. No, this is incorrect, I forgot the ED. This is regular or irregular. So you are thinking too much of the structures. No, you are thinking too much on the patterns, and it affects your fluency. All right. So you have to be very careful. You have to be conscious. You need to be conscious about these structures, but these structures don't have to affect your fluency when you speak, when you communicate, when you write also, all right? So this is important to take into account. Now, the importance of grammar. Notice how important is grammar. With a widespread institution of standards on high-stakes tests, students are expected to recognize and use correct grammar. Nowadays, you know that we have these international examinations, no? TOEFL, the Cambridge examination, the Greek examinations, no? Or Michigan test, no? So we have a lot, and nowadays they are expanding, no? They are expanding, they are more common now. So you are required to take these kind of examinations. And on these kind of examinations, you are expected to recognize, your students are expected to recognize and use correct grammar. Because these exams, most of them are written exams. Well, nowadays we don't have this kind of written presentially, but we have the virtual one. But the student is required to use correct grammar, to write, to understand a text, no? To understand what the other person is talking. Also, when you are going to speak, no? Because you need to use the correct expressions. No? Notice here. So grammar is involved in this aspect of examinations, no? This standard and high stakes test. Educators can no longer afford to assume that the students acquire an accurate understanding of formal language structures through reading. So here, no, sometimes we say, yeah, if they read a lot, they are going to acquire this grammar, no? Yeah, they could do it in a natural way, but sometimes they need to analyze, no? Sometimes they need to analyze this structure of formal language. Notice that we are talking about formal language. That's what I say, no? There are two kind of language, the informal and the formal, the spoken and the written. That's why we have two kind of grammars too. The spoken grammar and the written grammar. Now, when we talk about grammar, we are going to identify three aspects related to any grammatical structure. That's why here says a three-dimensional grammar framework. Do you have any idea what would be these three aspects related to grammar, to any grammatical structure? Do you have an idea? When we analyze, remember, grammar means to analyze, not the structures. When we analyze a grammatical structure, what do we do exactly? What are we analyzing? No, nobody? What are we going to analyze in a grammatical structure? No idea?
The function of the language.
Yeah, the function, all right. Yes, this is one of them, no function or use. What else?
Yes.
Any other idea? What are these three aspects when we analyze a grammatical structure? Nobody? Yeah, okay, don't worry. Okay, so we are going to say here, right? So grammatical structures not only have form, notice this is one of the aspects in a grammatical structure, the form. They are also used to express meaning. Notice this is the second, meaning, form, meaning in context, and appropriate use. So we have these three aspects of any grammatical structure. We analyze the form, the meaning, and the use. Notice here. The form, in simple words, is the structure, how you make this structure. How is it composed? The meaning is related to the semantic aspect, the message that you want to send. What do you want to express, orally or written? No? And finally, you have the use that is related to pragmatics. For example, these are two branches of linguistics too, no? Semantics and pragmatics. Semantics are the meaning of words. What is the meaning of the words? In this case, what is the meaning of the expressions, the sentences, the phrases that we're going to use when we write or when we speak? And finally, the use, the pragmatics. So, in which context, notice here what it says, no? Appropriate context. In which context are we going to use this structure? So, notice here, remember, when we analyze a grammatical structure, we are going to analyze the form, the meaning, and the use. The form is the structure. The meaning is the semantics. And the use is the pragmatics, the praxis, no? How you use this structure, in which context do you use this structure? So notice here. Remember, when we talk about the form, yeah, remember this is the question, how is it formed? How is it composed? Meaning, what does it mean? And the use, when and why is it used? Notice, when and why is it used, this structure, no? So we have here these three aspects related to grammar. When we talk about the form of a structure, then we have the meaning, and finally we have the use. So let's start with the first one, the form. The form is related to morphosyntactic and lexical patterns. So we are going to analyze the morphology and the syntax. That's why here some of you says, no? Yeah, teacher, yes, grammar is a combination of morphology and syntax. Yes, but it's not only that. We are going to combine also with the lexical patterns. Lexical, remember, is referring to the words, no? The different kind of words. Now, the other, notice, not just the morphosyntactic. We are going to analyze also the phonemic and graphemic patterns, so the pronunciation and the spelling. That's why here you have some pronunciation rules and some spelling rules when you talk about some grammatical structures. So notice here, the form or structure involves a lot of things. You are going to analyze the morphosyntactic and lexical patterns and the phonemic and graphemic patterns. This is in the form and structure. When we talk about the meaning, lexical meaning and grammatical meaning. For example, no, you have a word and this word has a lexical meaning. For example, horse. Yeah, horse is an animal with four legs and eats and something like that. No, this is the lexical meaning. All right, this is the lexical meaning. It's a lexeme. But when we talk about the grammatical meaning, so we can say, oh yeah, horse is what kind of word is horse? Yeah, this is a noun. Yeah, it's a common noun. Notice you're giving here a grammatical meaning, the function of this word into this system, right? Also, if you want to talk about, for example, the here is related also to morphology, no? When we add the ed to the verbs to make the simple past. So yeah, this is a grammatical morpheme, because it doesn't have a literal meaning, no? It doesn't have a literal meaning. It has a grammatical meaning. Ed, yeah, what is the meaning of this ed? Past. You are talking about past. So notice this is the grammatical meaning. So when we talk about meaning, we're going to analyze these two, the lexical meaning and the grammatical meaning. Use of pragmatics. As you can see here on the pie, no, the purple pie, this part purple. So when and why is it used, this structure? When is used this structure? And why is it used here? So we are talking about the social context. Notice, in the use of pragmatics, we are talking about the social context. Also, the linguistic discourse context. So in which situations you are going to use this structure. Remember, in which situations, in which context you are going to use this structure. For example, we refer this to the register. No? Remember when we talk about the register? Register is how formal or informal is the structure of the language, right? Why? Because of the social context and also the linguistic discourse context. When we talk about writing, for example, no, you use different patterns, different structures when you write a business letter or you write a letter to your friend. So you are going to use different structures, different patterns. All right? Notice here, don't forget it. When we talk about grammar, we are going to divide it into three aspects. We are going to analyze the form, the meaning, and the use. Form, the structure. Simple words, the structure of this grammatical. Meaning, what does it mean? No? The message. The use, when and why do you use this grammatical structure? Let's see some examples. For example, let's take this grammatical structure. Now, this is one of the basic structures in the English language, the possessives. How do you make the possessives? We use the famous genitive. No, this is the genitive, the apostrophe s or s plus apostrophe, no S. Notice we have these two variants, yeah? The apostrophe S or just the apostrophe. All right? So notice here how you make this. This is related to the graphemes. No, notice this is related to the graphemes, and it's according to different rules, no, different patterns here. No, if it is singular, yeah, apostrophe S. If it is regular plural, just the apostrophe. But if it is irregular plural, apostrophe S. So notice you have different representations. Notice different representations of this possessive, apostrophe S or just the apostrophe. But this is related to morphology and syntax. Now notice we are talking about morphology and syntax. Now what about when you say it? When you say this, you use three different phonemes. You pronounce this apostrophe as like S, Z, or Z. Notice now we are talking about the phonemic aspect of the language, but it's related to the grammatical function, right? Because we're talking about the possessives. But you produce, when you speak, notice, when you speak, you produce this grammatical aspect of the language in three different forms. And here we have what we call the allomorphs, no? The allomorphs. The principal morpheme is the apostrophe S, what you have in mind. When you produce it in three different ways. In speaking, notice when you speak. When you write, you have two, apostrophe S or just the apostrophe. But when you speak, you have three, S, Z, is. Notice this is the form. Notice you're talking about the form of this structure, right? Let's pass to the meaning. In the meaning, you have this, that the most common meaning of this structure is to talk about possession, right? But also you have here other ones. You can talk about relationships. Oh, yeah, this is the previous one. Now you talk about also relationships, and you have other meanings of this apostrophe S. Not just possession, not just to express possession. You can express relationship. You can express amount. You can express part and a whole, or whole and a part. Notice we have different meanings for this structure. Notice this is the meaning for the structure. And the other one is the use. The apostrophe S versus the possessive determiner. So when you use the apostrophe S, and when do you use the other structure to talk about possession, right? You have other structures to talk about possession. One of them is the possessive determiner. The other, the apostrophe S versus the of the. Of the. So you use this, no? The preposition of plus the article the. You're using this also to talk about possession. And finally, the apostrophe S versus the non-compounds. So notice here, the analysis of this grammatical structure. You analyze the form, you analyze the meaning, and you analyze the use of this part of the language. No, because this is part of the language. Yeah, so here you have this, yeah. Notice here, you have here more meanings, no? Description, amount, relationship, part and a whole, origin and agent. So when we talk about the form and a structure, we are talking about the inflecting nouns or allomorphs. Now remember, inflecting, if you can remember this topic related to morphology, no? In morphology, remember we have two types of morphemes, no? The inflectional morphemes and the derivational morphemes. Inflectional morphemes You don't change the word, no? When you add this structure to a word, the word doesn't change, no? And now noun, no? Because we add this apostrophe s to nouns, no? So the noun is a noun. You don't change it. So we call this inflection. And remember, in order to remember this aspect of morphology. That's why here says inflecting nouns. So it means that you're using the inflection. So you use this morpheme just to give an extra grammatical function, not a lexical function. It is not a lexical one, it's a grammatical one. And we could say allomorphs because we have different ways to realize, not to do it. All right? That's why we call allomorphs. No? The morpheme is the apostrophe, is what you have in mind. But when you produce this morpheme, you have three physical variations in the speaking and also in the spelling. No? That's why here says the graphemic, no? The phonemic and graphemic aspect of the structure. This is related to the form and structure, remember? Then we have the meaning. Here you have some examples. How can we define this structure? The most common, we know this, the most common meaning of this apostrophe s is possession, no? To indicate possession. But also you indicate or you give or you express a description. For example, notice the first phrase, a debtor's prison. You're describing what kind of prison is it. You're not talking about possession. All right? If you notice a debtor's prison, you are not talking about possession. The meaning is not possession. The meaning of this structure now is to describe something. The other one, a month's holiday. Are you talking about possession? A month's holiday? No, right? This is not about possession. What is it about? Amount. You are talking about an amount. Notice the meaning is changing. The meaning of this structure is changing. It doesn't have the same meaning. What about the other? Jack's wife. So you're talking about a relationship. It's not exactly a possession, right? You're talking about a relationship between these two people, right? Notice, again, the meaning is different. All right? The meaning is different. The other, my brother's hand. So you can say that this is a part and a whole. And the last one, Shakespeare's tragedies. Shakespeare's tragedies. So you're talking about an origin and an agent. So notice, this is the meaning. So a structure, a grammatical structure could have not just one meaning, two or three, depending on the context, depending on the context you're using it. And notice, so you analyze the meaning. No? So for example, we know that the apostrophe is just for possession, but now you know that it has other meanings too. And the other one is the use of pragmatics, as I told you. Here you're going to compare when to use this apostrophe s and when to use the possessive determiner, when to use the apostrophe s and when to use the of the, and when to use the apostrophe s and the non-compounds. Because here we get confused. When we make compound nouns, we join two nouns. Similar to this one, we are joining two nouns. Debtor, prison, two nouns. Month, holiday, two nouns. Jack, wife, two nouns. So we get confused with the compound nouns sometimes. All right, so notice this is one of the structures. Let's pass to another one, and we finish here with the examples related to these three aspects. The phrasal verbs.
Professor,
Tell me.
we move on, can we consider in the uses of the last slide the contractions? For example, she's my best friend. She is that contraction.
Oh yeah, but it has another. No, here no. This is, we are talking about just possessive. Remember, This is the other one.
Oh,
It's
right,
just a
right, okay.
construction. Yeah, this is a
Yeah,
contraction.
right.
You're reducing, no? You're reducing the verb is or the verb has, no? Because this apostrophe s is also the contraction of the verb has, no?
Right.
But it doesn't have here this
Yeah, you're
meaning,
right,
no? The
yeah.
meaning of
Yeah, I
possession.
didn't
Yeah?
realize the possessions. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, okay, don't worry, don't worry. All right, so let's talk about the phrasal verbs. The form, can you tell me about what is the form of a phrasal verb? What is the form of a phrasal verb? No, no, nobody, nobody?
The base of form of the verb plus suffix.
Yeah. Suffix, not exactly. It's not exactly a suffix because remember, suffix, they are inner parts of a word, no?
A verb
Yeah, a verb plus.
plus pronoun and plus preposition or maybe
Verb
before
in the present.
No, 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 no. Yeah. It's a verb plus a preposition, could be, or maybe an adverb. Yeah, but we call this part more exactly a particle. Notice, how do we make? Remember, the form is how do we make a phrasal verb? A phrasal verb is a verb that is composed by 2 or 3 parts. A verb plus a particle, and then you have maybe 2 particles. Notice here, the formal structure, now when we talk about the formal structure, we can make a phrasal verb using a verb plus a particle, or verb plus a particle plus preposition. Also, we could find that these verbs, some of them are separable and some of them are inseparable. Also, the other aspect in the form is that some of them are transitive and some of them are intransitive. Notice, we are analyzing the form of the phrasal verb. Remember, a phrasal verb is composed by 2 or 3 parts. Remember this. And we generally change the meaning of the original verb. This is a phrasal, generally, not all the time, but generally, we usually change the meaning of the original verb. Now, for example, a simple example of a phrasal verb is get up. Get plus up. No, you know this, no? Get up. What is the meaning of get up? To?
Levantarse.
Yes, to get out from bed, not to get out of the bed. Yes, not to wake up and get out of the bed. This is get up. But notice, get along is to obtain, no? To arrive, no? You use the verb get along, no? But when you add up, you change. You are changing the meaning of this verb. So we call this a phrasal verb. Yeah, remember, this is a phrasal verb. No, get up, then you have pick up, then you have the other call on, call off, take on. No, so you have a lot of phrasal verbs. No, you have a lot of phrasal verbs. So, for example, when you have 2 particles, look forward to. This is another verb, no? I don't know if you have seen it before. Look forward to. What is the meaning of look forward to? Notice these 3 words are just one verb, one meaning. Look forward to is similar to say hope, wish. And notice this is a phrasal verb. Verb plus a particle or verb plus a particle plus a preposition. Why do we call this particle? Because if we say that this is a preposition, we're indicating location, time. Now remember that we have different kinds of prepositions, right? Prepositions of time, prepositions of place, prepositions of location. So you are indicating something, no? You are indicating time, you are indicating position, you are indicating here movement, no? But here we're not going to use this. We're not going to indicate these aspects of the language. No, we are going to join this word to the verb to make this verb change meaning. That's why we call them particles. Remember, particles. Separable and inseparable. So some of the phrasal verbs are we going to separate it, no? Oh yeah, this is the other one. Then I'm gonna give you examples about it. Transitive and intransitive. The transitive and intransitive. Remember, we have these two types of verbs. Transitive are the verb who takes an object. Transitive. Intransitive are the verbs which don't take an object. And this is the meaning of transitive and intransitive. Then we're going to see some examples. Then the meaning. We have a literal meaning and we have a figurative meaning, and also we have multiple meanings of a phrasal verb. And finally, in the use, we use the informal discourse or principle of dominance. So let's talk about each one. For example, notice in the form, we have look up, a verb plus a particle. Notice, look up, a verb plus a particle. Why do we say that this is a particle? Because up is not a preposition here. It doesn't mean that you are going to raise your head to the top or to the ceiling and look at this direction. No. That's why we say that this is not a preposition. It's a particle. All right? Because look up has another meaning, right? Look up is to search a word in a dictionary. This is the meaning of look up. It's not to look to the high position. No, no, no. All right. You could use also, I'm looking up the sky. Yeah, here is a verb plus a preposition, but it's not a phrasal verb. A phrasal verb is when you say, I'm looking up this word in a dictionary. It's difficult to find it. No, this is a phrasal verb because the up is not a preposition. It's a particle which is joined to the principal verb, and you change the meaning of this original verb. Now, when we say separable and inseparable, for example, this phrasal verb is separable. So you could write this, look up the word, or you could say, look the word up. Notice you can separate it. You can separate these two parts, no? You can write it together, look up the word, but you could write it also with this separated. Look the word up. You don't change the meaning here. Notice, be careful. If you separate, do we change the meaning? No, the meaning is the same. Yeah? So it means that this verb can be separated. Some other phrasal verbs are not separated. Which phrasal verbs are not commonly separated? The intransitive verbs. As in the example, here you have get up. Get up is an intransitive verb. Why is it an intransitive verb? Because this verb doesn't take an object. When you say, I get up at 7 p.m., there is no object, right? You have the subject, I, get up, the verb. Remember, get up is the verb. And finally, you have at 7 a.m. This is a prepositional phrase, but there is no object. Object, remember, when we talk about object, it's not specifically a thing, could be a person too. But the most important when we say object is the person or thing which receives the action. There is not a person or thing which receives the action. This is an intransitive verb, remember? This is an intransitive verb. Uncommonly, these intransitive verbs are not separated, all right? Because there's no object. In the word look up, the word is the object. So this object can separate at two parts, no? But there are some transitive verbs that are not going to be separated too. Be careful on that. So you can find it here to try to find out which verbs, phrasal verbs are separable and which phrasal verbs are non-separable. And transitive and intransitive, remember, transitive when the verb takes an object. For example, look up is a transitive verb because you have an object. The word is the object. But get up is an intransitive verb because this verb doesn't take an object. And notice, this is the structure, this is the form. Notice, we're analyzing the form of this grammatical structure, that is the phrasal verbs. How we make, how is it made? Oh yeah, we use a verb plus particle or maybe two particles. Some of them could be separated, some of them are not separated. Some verbs are transitive, some verbs are intransitive. So we are analyzing the form, the structure. Let's pass to the meaning. When we say literal and figurative and multiple meanings. For example, there are some verbs that could maintain, that's what I told you, no? Most phrasal verbs are changed. The meaning is changed, but some of them maintain the basic meaning and you just add extra, no? So for example, hang up, hang, you know what is hang? So you have to put it in a high position, right? So you have a relationship with the original meaning. That's why we have literal meaning. But the other, run into, is figurative. Run into. Do you know what is the meaning of run into? To run, to move your legs? No. Run into, notice here, is to visit someone else. This is the meaning of run into. Without any plan. This is the meaning of run into. So you change the meaning. Notice, you are changing the meaning completely of this original verb. Run, teacher, run. Yeah, it's the action of moving our legs, no, in a fast speed, no, maybe to jog or to go in a fast way. No, this is the meaning of run, the original meaning of run. But when you put it with into, you change this meaning completely. Run into, visit. Okay, notice this is a figurative meaning. And the last one, multiple meanings. Some phrasal verbs have different meanings according to the type of verb. For example, come across is discovered by chance when this is a transitive verb. For example, you can say, no, I came across this old book yesterday. Notice my sentence, I came across this old book yesterday. So here we have an object, right? We have an object. What is the object? This old book. So in this case, when this verb is transitive, the meaning is discovered by chance. But if you have this verb as an intransitive, notice that some verbs are transitive and intransitive, but if you use this verb as an intransitive, the meaning is other. The meaning is make an impression. It's the same phrasal verb, notice, it's the same phrasal verb, but with two different meanings because of the type of the verb, if it is transitive or intransitive. For example, in the last part, you could say, no, came across, make an impression. So, oh, you came across well in the party. So it means that you gave a good impression in the party. Came across, no object. Notice, I came across well, or you came across well in a party. No object. So this is an intransitive verb. So the meaning is other. Notice, the meaning is make an impression. So that's why we say that this phrasal verb could have multiple meanings. And the same phrasal verb could have one meaning in one context and other meaning in another context. And so this is the meaning. And the other, the use, so are the circumstances favoring particle movement. So this is related to the first part, no? When we talk about look up the word, or look the word up. So we're going to separate, no? We're going to separate, no? We are going to move the particle after the object. For example, there are some rules that says that if the object is too long, you don't need to separate it. But if the object is short, you can separate it. And it is most preferable if you use a pronoun, no? Because you can replace the word with it. So look it up. so you can separate it better. No, so this is the principle of dominance and the uses of informal discourse. Remember, these phrasal verbs are used in informal context. Yeah, this is used in an informal context. That's why native speakers use this kind of verbs a lot. And this is one of the reasons that sometimes we cannot understand. We say, oh, I ran into a friend. Ah, ran into a friend? Run with a friend. No? Maybe we can get confused. Eh? But here you're saying that you visited a friend. Not that you ran to your friend. No, no. You visited. Oh, I ran into a friend yesterday. And you say, ran into a friend yesterday. Run. Oh, yeah, maybe yeah, he was running in the park, maybe. No, the meaning is older, right? So remember, these phrasal verbs are used more in an informal discourse. Don't forget. So notice here the different aspects when we analyze the grammatical structure. We analyze the form, the meaning, and the use. Don't forget about these three aspects. Okay, now, all three dimensions have to be mastered by the learner, although not necessarily consciously. Notice, this is what I was talking to you. No? Sometimes when we say grammar, yeah, we need to give to our students all of these aspects. But notice that they can learn it, they can master, they can get mastered through this instruction, not only consciously, they can acquire, no? Not just learn it, but they need to know about these three aspects. No, the form, the meaning, and the use. Important information by recognizing where students need to be reinforced. Also, it's not only the form of the instructions what creates conflict in students and the most significant challenge. No? So there's going to be a challenge. When we teach this to our students, it's a challenge for us. No? As I told you before, some of this is too tiring, no? Too boring or complicated, no? To analyze all of these aspects. No, my students are gonna get bored. No? So it's a challenge for us to teach these aspects of grammar. Yeah, now we are going to talk about this term. Yeah, this term is grammaring. Grammaring is thinking of grammar as a skill. Notice, as a skill to be mastered, similar to listening, writing, reading, speaking. So you can say that we also have this skill. Thinking of grammar as a skill to be mastered. And it was said by Larsen Freeman in 2001. No? This person is again another famous linguist and also publisher. And a lot of books. Maybe you have used some of the books. So notice that this person says that grammar is a skill, remember, to be mastered. Now, when we learn grammar, here you have some research in second language acquisition, how students develop their ability to interpret and produce grammatical utterances. First encounter of processing usage, not accumulation of structures. No, at the beginning, it's so important not to give our students a lot of structures. Yeah, now the present simple, now the present present, then the other. So you give them a lot of structure. No, try to give them not so many structures, right? In order to be easy to process and in order to be easy to use. That's why here it says processing and usage. The interlanguage and backsliding. No? So interlanguage is when we start comparing. The backsliding is also related to this. When we compare our native language, our mother tongue, our first language with the second language. Second language learners relied on the knowledge and the experience they have. So all the knowledge, the previous knowledge, the background knowledge they have, so they use it to acquire, to learn these grammatical structures. Different learning processes are responsible for different aspects of language. It was said by Gagné and Metzger. Again, these are famous linguists too and investigators. how to acquire or learn languages. No? So here they say that different learning processes are responsible for different aspects of language. No? So if you want to teach one aspect of language, it involves another different process from the other parts of the language. No? You're not going to use the same process of learning if you want to learn from morphology, maybe on phonetics or any other aspect of the language. So we have different learning processes because we have different aspects of the language. If we understand our students' learning processes, we will be able to make the right teaching decisions. No, this is very important. No, we as teachers, we must know our students' learning processes, how they learn. It's very important to know that to take the correct decision. No? Now, what does teaching grammar mean? So here you have, it means enabling language students to use linguistic forms accurately, meaningfully, and appropriately. So this is the purpose of teaching grammar, no? To make our students capable of use these linguistic forms accurately, meaningfully, and appropriately. So this is again according to Lawrence and Freeman. No? I'd advise you to check out these works of Lawrence and Freeman. This person has a lot of interesting books. So why should we teach grammar? So we are going to analyze here some aspects. Why should we teach grammar? One of them is the sentence machine. So this means that grammar is needed in order to make sentences. If you want to make sentences, you need grammar. That's why you call this the sentence machine. No? Grammar is a sentence machine. The other, fine-tuning. Grammar is needed in order to be more explicit and to make sure you don't confuse the listener or reader. So you need to adjust. No? You need to adjust your expressions, your utterances, your structures that you are using to be understood. The other one is fossilization. Grammar teaching is needed because otherwise learners will reach a language plateau beyond which is very difficult to progress. Now, fossilization, I don't know if you have heard about this term. We talked about this term when we talk about writing, fossilization, and speaking too. Fossilization is when you repeat a mistake a lot of times, and it's difficult for you to change it. So when you teach grammar, you make your students to correct this mistake and not to use it a lot. And so we call this fossilization. Remember, fossilization is when you made a mistake a lot of times. You repeat it and repeat it and repeat it again. So we call this fossilization. So when we teach grammar to our students, we avoid that. We avoid our students fossilize a word or a structure. No? The other aspect in order to teach grammar is advanced organizer. When grammar is taught to learners, they will notice it and will be able to use it themselves. So they are going to organize themselves. That's why here it says advanced organizers. So because they will be able to recognize this structure and will be able to use it. Notice that's why here it says that this is an advanced organizer. Let's see more here. Let's see more aspects. Why should we teach grammar? Another one that this is a discrete item. For learners, the language might seem easier when they are taught grammar because grammar consists of rules, which makes the language more clear instead of gigantic, shapeless mass. So we can reduce the amount of language input into our learners. And that's why it would be a kind of easier, no? It might seem easier because here we have a lot of structures, no? A lot of patterns, so we could say a lot of rules, no? When we talk about grammar. So with this, remember that we are going to give our students and not too many structures at the same time. Try to give some simple structures on one structure at a time, not 2, 3, 4 at the same time. No, that's why here says it's not gonna be a gigantic or shapeless mass. No, so try to be clear, all right, with just one structure. The other one is rule of law. Grammar is a great way for having a structure in class, especially with unruly and motivated students. It is easy to teach them, for example, speaking. No, sometimes in some situations, not always, in some situations, teaching grammar is easier than teaching any other skills. No? Because here you have some structures and they can compare it to their own language and they can recognize it easily. But on the other side, when we teach, for example, speaking, they need to organize their ideas. They need to feel aware about what they want to say. No? So there are a lot of aspects involved in speaking, including grammar, no? Including grammar, because they need to know or they need to use the correct structure or expression according to the situation. Remember, when we talk about grammar, we make the form, the meaning, and the use. So they must know all of these aspects. No? And finally, we have here the learner expectations. Students might expect being taught grammar, so in order not to turn them down, you'll teach grammar. And so this is very important to remember. So here you have these aspects. Why should we teach grammar? Notice, it's important. It's important to teach grammar to our students. The problem, so I'm going to repeat it again, is how we teach it. This is the problem. So, and this is what we are going to talk about now. Just getting to the end. Presenting grammar. How you are going to present grammar. How you are going to teach grammar. There are two ways. Explicitly and implicitly. Most of the time, we use the first one, the explicitly, the implicit way. So explicitly, we have again two ways. Inductively, it means rule discovery, and deductively, rule driven. So here, you are going to show the structure to your student. You explain. Deductively, inductively, we are going to change the procedures, but in general, they have in common that you make your students sure about this structure consciously. Notice, consciously. But in the other way, implicitly, is no over grammar explanation. So there is no direct, overt, remember, overt means direct, not open in some cases. Yeah, but here, according to the context, is direct. There is no direct explanation of grammar structures. So there are two ways. As I told you before, we use mostly the first, the explicit way because it's easier. The second one, not so much. So here we are going to analyze first these two aspects, the explicitly and implicitly. So this is going to be the class for the next session, the topic for the next session. So you're going to be inquiring what is explicitly and implicitly, inductively. So I know that you know these terms, no? Inductively and deductively. I know that you manage these two terms, but now we are going to make a relationship with the grammar teaching. Yeah? So here we're going to stop. Yeah? Next class, next Saturday, we're going to analyze how we are going to teach grammar. In which ways can we teach grammar? Explicitly, implicitly, inductively, deductively. So we are going to analyze these aspects, okay? So don't miss next class, please. Remember, as I told you at the beginning, this module is divided in two parts. It's divided in two parts. These two first classes, this class and the next one, is going to be related to grammar. The third and the fourth is related to vocabulary. No, this is one of the important aspects to teach our students, no, the vocabulary. All right, so don't forget it. These two first sessions is related to grammar, and the third and the fourth is related to vocabulary. The next session, we are going to analyze the different ways how we can present or how can we teach grammar. All right?
Thank you, Professor.
All right, teacher.
All right. So see you next week.
Thank you,
Take care a
teacher.
lot.
See you
Thank
next
you very much,
class.
teacher.
Take care a lot.
Have a nice
Thank you,
weekend,
bye.
teacher.
Have a nice
Bye,
weekend. Have a
teacher.
nice weekend.
Bye, teacher.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye,
you.
teacher.
Saturday.
Bye-bye. See you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you,
Have a
teacher.
nice
Have
weekend.
a nice weekend, teacher.
Have a nice weekend, Martha.
Bye bye.